Give me a minute and let me respond to Chrome 777's comment or question. How long have you lived in Ukraine and how did you end up there? It's a great question. And I haven't done one of these Who I Am videos in a long time, so it's time for one. I have been here since February 24th, 2023, so just a little over a year. And I came for the 1-year anniversary of the war. I came specifically for 3 months to volunteer. When the 3 months were up, I had become very invested here. And so I decided to stay for another 3 months. And then 6 months turned into 9 months, turned into a year, turned into what's going on 15 months now. And there's a lot of the inciting incident, what brought me here. I'm in a bar in Erie, Pennsylvania, and I'm talking to some friends of mine about the war in Ukraine, and we're talking in loud voices about the ineffectiveness of our government in supporting this emergent democracy in its fight against the Russian autocracy. And the bartender comes over and he drops our wings. And if you're looking for wings in Erie, Pennsylvania, don't go to this place. Go instead to the restaurant, or the Ringside restaurant. That's where the best wings in Erie are, by the way. Just for those out there that are fans of wings. So the bartender drops our wings and he says to me, "Petey, you're listening to all the wrong people. There ain't no war in Ukraine. It's all a hoax so the Biden crime family can launder money." Needless to say, we got those wings to go. We went back to my place. We finished our wings, talking about this insane bartender and how insane it was that we could be at a bar in Erie, Pennsylvania and hear from a fellow American bullshit Russian propaganda come out of this guy's mouth as if it were facts, as if he knew what was going on. Insanity, right? And that night I resolved to get my ass to Ukraine, and I booked a flight to Warsaw, I booked a sleeper car to Kyiv, and I came for the 1-year anniversary concerned that there was going to be something bad going on and they could use able-bodied people to assist. That's not exactly what happened. I got here. I had agreed to do some volunteer work with an organization for 3 months, did that. And my buddy's son, who on here is Hacky Sack Trav, he's a professional footbagger, does amazing. He doesn't exactly break the law of gravity, but he sure as hell bends it a lot. It's amazing what that kid does. If you don't follow him, I would recommend to follow. He's great. And he's telling me, you know, these stories that you're telling us, you should be telling them to other people. And so that's what got me on the Tickety Talk, was my buddy Travis. And on TikTok, remember, the inciting incident that brought me here was hearing from another American Russian disinformation. I'm thinking to myself, back in my little apartment in Erie overlooking the lake, we don't understand the Russians. We don't get it. We don't understand that for 20 years, a Russian fire hose of disinformation has been sprayed at the American people like a manure spreader in spring. And it is it has had a corrosive impact on our political dialogue. We don't understand the Russians. The Ukrainians understand the Russians. So I came here to learn from the Ukrainians to understand how to disambiguate Russian disinformation. And maybe I thought if I could figure out a way to communicate that to my fellow Americans, maybe we could get back on the same page and all support democracy. And so that's what I've been trying to do here on this channel. And that's what I've been trying to do since I got here, really. Now, there's another aspect to it, right? Because not everybody can pick up and leave their lives or would leave their lives. So on a personal note, the circumstances that made this possible, well, in 2019, I became an empty nester. My son graduated high school and was off onto his great life. And I was pretty lonely around the house. There's that. And then the other thing that happened was the house burned down and I almost died. And that really affects you. And I thought to myself, it gives me something in common with so many of the Ukrainians here. So many people here have lost everything just like I did. We have a common experience of loss. I don't have the same depth of that experience, but I too have lost everything in a lightning strike out of nowhere. Recently, I told the story of this scarf, this ridiculous scarf that my grandmother knitted for me, and how an ex of mine one day, and it's the most precious thing I own, right? It's 40 years old. She put a lot of effort into it. It has a lot of personal meaning to me. And an ex of mine one day was mad at me and wanted to try to hurt me. And so she took it and threw it in the driveway and ran it over and tore it apart. And for the last 7 years, it has been in two pieces. Very much like my life was after the fire. And the reality is that if she had not done that, if she had not tried to hurt me in that way, I wouldn't have this scarf because it would have been in the house when the house burned. The only reason I still have it is because it was in Philadelphia with a friend of mine who I sent it to hoping she could fix it, but she doesn't knit, she crochets. I can never keep those straight, right? And so she couldn't do anything about it. But a friend of mine here in Ukraine, just this week, returned it to me, and it is whole again. Look at that. You can barely see where she stitched it up. And it's my firm belief that America can be put back together again when we acknowledge that we have been played, we have been suckered by the enemies of democracy into hating ourselves for no reason, because it's in the interest of somebody else. That the people of Ukraine, when they win this thing, can put themselves back together again and emerge out of the crucible of this war with a deeper knowledge of who they are. And that the Russians, when confronted with their defeat, will wise up and start to heal the generational trauma that is in Russia. Because that's real too. You can't go through 500 years of serfdom and then the most evil experiment in engineering human beings for 80 years and then 30 years of kleptocracy without having some generational trauma of your own. The Russian society is fucked. And that's what we do not understand in America. These people are not partners. They will never be partners. They must be defeated. They need a psychological shock in order to move forward. And I firmly believe it's the Ukrainians that are going to deliver it. So that's how I got here, why I'm here, and what I'm doing. I hope that all makes sense. Thanks.